This is the story of a girl named Morgan. She was a sweeper, working hard, cleaning up the local police station. One day, while she was going about her cleaning, some evidence from a big murder case accidentally fell out of a box. As Morgan bent down to pick it up, she took a look at what it was. And what she saw shocked her. The person the police were focusing on, the main suspect, was actually just a pawn, a puppet being controlled by the real bad guys. And get this, the only reason the police were looking at the dead man's wife as the suspect was because she'd been missing since the day the murder happened. Morgan, driven by a gut feeling, did a very bold thing. She grabbed a marker and on the whiteboard, she erased the word suspect and wrote the word victim next to the wife's name instead. Then she just left it there and went home. The next morning, Detective Carrick and his team walked into the office, and the first thing they saw was the board. Confusion erupted. Who did this? No one was owning up to it. Detective Carrick was furious. He needed to know who had messed with his case. So, he went straight to the CCTV footage. It didn't take long to find out. It was Morgan. They immediately brought her in from home to the station for questioning. "Why did you interfere in the work of the police?" they demanded. "Why did you think the wife was the victim? The police are only considering her a suspect because she went missing right after the murder," she said, "and because it looks like there was no one else in the house that day." But Morgan pointed out something everyone else had missed. "Look at these pictures," she said. "It's clear there was a third person in that room." She theorized that the killer must have also kidnapped the wife to deliberately throw the police off track. "It's very possible that her life is in danger too," Morgan stressed. The detectives didn't buy it, not at first. But right at that moment, an officer rushed in with a new piece of information. Someone had confirmed that a third person had come to the house on the day of the murder. Before this new information could even be verified, Detective Carrick, still angry about the board incident, had Morgan arrested for a day for interfering with their work. While Morgan was in lockup, the police got a new lead, CCTV footage from outside the victim's house. It showed a girl who had come to the house just 30 minutes before the murder. They found this girl, brought her in, and started questioning her. But she flatly denied everything. She claimed she had been at home the entire day the murder happened and had never gone to the victim's house. Detective Carrick and his team were completely confused. Just then, the time came for Morgan to be released from jail. As she was leaving, she took a look at the confusing CCTV footage. "This footage is fake," she told them instantly. As she walked out, she pointed out the glaring error. The date and timestamps are wrong. Detective Carrick dismissed her comment, but the lieutenant, the lead officer, was intrigued and stopped her, asking for a proper explanation. "Look," Morgan said, "the wind in the footage is blowing from south to north." She explained that during the autumn season in the summer, the wind always blows from north to south. "This means that the footage you are seeing is from many months ago. The killer simply took an old video and changed the time and date stamps to divert your attention." All of Morgan's seemingly wild statements were researched, and every single one turned out to be correct. The entire detective unit was left speechless. As Morgan was about to walk out of the police station for good, the lieutenant stopped her again. "How did you do all this?" he asked, completely baffled. Morgan's reply was simple. "I have a 160 IQ. She explained that her powers of thinking and observation were far beyond a common person's, and she had also watched a lot of documentaries, which helped her analyze things easily. In the next scene, Detective Carrick met the daughter of the dead victim. The girl told him something very strange. A woman named Sarah had sent a letter to the victim's wife, the one who was now missing. The girl said that by the time her mother, the missing wife, had actually read the letter, the woman, Sarah, had already died. Detective Carrick was instantly intrigued. What was in that letter, and could it be connected to the murder? He knew he needed to find it, thinking it must be at the missing wife's house or her office. He told the lieutenant about the letter, and seeing how complicated the case had become, the lieutenant made a huge request. He asked Morgan to officially handle the case. Morgan's first move was to get that letter. She figured it was most likely at the missing wife's office. Detective Carrick went to the office and requested permission from the boss to search for the letter, but the boss flat out refused. While at the office, Detective Carrick was explaining the entire case and all the timelines to Morgan. Morgan, with her keen eye, noticed that the missing wife's sister seemed strangely uninterested in everything, despite having a deep connection to the wife. The detectives decided to take the sister along to the victim's house for investigation. There, Morgan observed the sister again and realized she was a biologist. And it was clear from her nervous behavior that she was hiding something from the police. Morgan told Carrick, but he didn't find anything suspicious about her yet. The letter was crucial, and they still didn't have it. So, Morgan did another reckless thing. Without telling anyone, she sneaked back into the office at night. Under the pretense of cleaning, she stole the letter. When she brought the letter to Detective Carrick, he was furious. "You could have been jailed again for stealing this," he shouted. "Whatever happens, we'll deal with it later," Morgan said. "Just read this letter." The letter revealed that a very powerful man in the city named Brian had been harassing a high society girl. Sarah, the girl who died, wanted a case filed against him, and she had reached out to the missing wife for help. But before she could do anything, Sarah died. Now, Brian was a main suspect. Detective Carrick immediately called him to the police station for questioning. Brian denied everything, saying he was not present on the day of the murder. Meanwhile, outside, the other officers discovered that Brian had actually been in Fountain City on the day the murder took place. Before the investigation could progress, the boss from the office where Morgan stole the letter showed up. He was there to take legal action against Morgan. Detective Carrick exploded. He had forbidden Morgan from doing such things and had even told her to return the letter. All these blunders were delaying the investigation. In a fit of anger, Detective Carrick removed Morgan from the case. But Morgan's intelligence was indispensable. The very next day, Detective Carrick had to swallow his pride and go to Morgan again for help. He couldn't figure out Brian's link to the case. Brian was in Fountain City, yet the murder happened in the alley. Morgan thought for a moment and then announced, "The murder didn't happen on the day it's being shown." She theorized that it was possible the murder happened a few days earlier and then changes were made to make it look recent. "How can you say all this with such certainty?" Detective Carrick asked, astonished. To prove her point, Morgan took him back to the victim's house. Once there, they noticed the temperature of the house was very low. This was the key. Because of the low temperature, the dead body hadn't decomposed and the bloodstains looked new. Morgan continued to weave the puzzle together. "Look at Lynette, the missing wife," Morgan said. "Her sister barely shows any concern, but when we went to her sister's house, we saw many Fountain City artifacts. This meant the sister had recently been to Fountain City. But here's the real twist," Morgan declared. "She went to Fountain City on the exact same dates that Brian went to Fountain City, and all our evidence suggests the murder happened on those dates." From this, Morgan made a bold guess. Brian was the sister's boyfriend? She laid out the entire sequence of events. When Brian found out Lynette was going to take Sarah's case against him, he brought Lynette's sister in to pressure Lynette to back off. He must have threatened Lynette. When Lynette's husband raised a gun to scare Brian, Brian wasn't scared. He tried to snatch the gun, and in the struggle, Lynette's husband was shot. It had become a murder. To cover it up, Brian, aided by the sister, the biologist, planned everything. The sister, being a biologist, helped him lower the house temperature to preserve the evidence. They put in the old CCTV footage with new timestamps. They kidnapped Lynette that same day to make it look like she killed her husband and ran away. Morgan then made a brilliant guess about where they would have kept Lynette. And the incredible thing was, her guess was correct. They immediately went to the location, rescued Lynette, and the culprits were caught. The case was closed. Everyone was astounded. Morgan had solved such a complicated case so easily. The lieutenant was so impressed that he offered her the job of a detective, but Morgan rejected the offer. She said the job took up too much time and she needed to be with her family. The story ends there, with her at home with her daughter. At home, Morgan noticed that her daughter had started to hate her father. Her daughter believed her dad had intentionally left them 15 years ago when he disappeared without a trace. This deeply hurt Morgan. She knew her daughter was misunderstanding her dad, and Morgan herself desperately wanted to know what had happened to him. So, the next day, she went back to the lieutenant and accepted the job offer. But on one condition, the lieutenant had to help her find her missing husband. The lieutenant immediately agreed. Back at home, Morgan's daughter got the first prize for painting in college. Morgan was so excited that she started showing her daughter her father's old paintings. This only made her daughter angrier, as she still believed her dad abandoned them. Just then, there was a knock on the door. It was the lieutenant who had come with a piece of good news about her husband's case. Her husband's car was found. Even more terror-inducing, the car had arrived at the police station 3 days after his disappearance, and diapers were found inside. This clearly meant he was bringing them for his children. He had no intention of leaving his family. Hearing this, Morgan's eyes filled with tears. Days passed, and Morgan continued her work as a detective, quickly helping to solve many murder cases. Meanwhile, the lieutenant was personally investigating Morgan's husband. One day, the lieutenant discovered something. 15 years ago, one of his own officers had arrested Morgan's husband for illegally painting a mural on a wall. The building was known to be a place where criminals often lived. The lieutenant told Morgan, "I think your husband did something that made someone take him away, or he disappeared because of the location where he was painting. It was a place for criminals." Morgan showed the lieutenant pictures of her husband's beautiful paintings. "I don't think you're right about this," she insisted, defending her husband's harmless art. Months went by, and after hard work, Morgan finally earned her formal detective badge. She was thrilled. To celebrate, she went to the washroom to take a picture. Suddenly, a woman entered crying. Morgan asked what was wrong. The woman explained, through tears, that her 2 daughters were missing, and she had come to the station to report it. Morgan, with human warmth, comforted her, assuring her the girls would be found. Detective Carrick and Morgan took on the case. They went to the woman's huge, expensive house to talk to her and her father. They learned that the woman was divorced, and her ex-husband, an environmentalist, had been fighting for legal custody of the girls, but had always lost. The ex-husband became the immediate suspect. They found out he had applied for passports for the girls last month. It seemed he might have run away with them. To confirm this, Detective Carrick and Morgan went to his house. No one was there, but Morgan noticed a small greenhouse near his house. Inside, she spotted something strange: cucumbers and tomatoes planted in the same container. As an environmentalist, he would have known that they cannot grow together. "So, are you saying this greenhouse was newly built and something has been hidden here?" "It's possible they quickly removed the plants on top," Morgan replied. "They dug up the soil, and there they found the body of the ex-husband. The man they thought was the kidnapper was himself a victim. This discovery meant the 2 girls were in great danger. They rushed back to the mother's house to give her the terrible news. Morgan noticed how incredibly wealthy the family was. The father, the girls' grandfather, even had a personal driver. While Detective Carrick spoke to the family, Morgan spoke to the maid. The maid nervously told her that on the day the ex-husband was murdered, she saw the girl's grandfather coming home, looking extremely nervous. This made Morgan very suspicious. Morgan investigated the dead man further, checking with his neighbors and getting a behavior report from the Child Bureau. The behavior report, which the court had used to deny him custody, was very negative. But his neighbors and relatives gave a completely opposite report of him. Morgan realized the truth. The report from the social worker and the one from his community are completely opposite, she told Carrick. This clearly means the social worker is involved and knows something big. They looked into the social worker and found her name was Sarah, a different Sarah from before, and she had red hair. Many people had reported seeing her with the dead man often. They went to her house. Morgan's observation skills kicked in again. The kitchen had very cheap, regular items, suggesting she didn't earn much. But she also had Hawaiian flour, was wearing luxury 5-star hotel slippers, and had many expensive bills on her dining table. Morgan immediately guessed. The wealthy grandfather had been bribing the social worker to write a false, negative report about his son-in-law. Confronted with the truth, the social worker, Sarah, confessed that the old man had been bribing other people too to spread lies about his son-in-law. Sarah had no other connection to the case, so they let her go, and the grandfather was arrested. The investigation turned to the servants again. The driver confessed that the grandfather had gone out on the day of the murder without him. Detective Carrick interrogated the old man, who kept denying the murder. Carrick said, "I'm not saying you committed the murder. I'm saying you hired someone to kill him because he knew about your illegal businesses, and you didn't like that." Separate investigations confirmed that the old man had indeed hired a man to kill his son-in-law. They caught the hired killer, but the 2 kidnapped girls were not with him. The day the killer was caught, the girl's mother also disappeared. The detectives, thinking the mother might be trying to cover up her father's crimes, listed her as a suspect. Morgan didn't believe it, but then an officer reported that the mother had just withdrawn a huge amount of money from the bank. This made even Morgan suspicious. Had the mother made her daughters disappear? That night, Morgan was watching the news report about the missing girls. She saw a picture of the children, and behind them, a very valuable Buddha artifact. She suddenly remembered that when she had visited the house, that artifact was not there. Someone had stolen it. She called Detective Carrick immediately. Valuable artifacts like that were rare. They could go to the artifact shop and find out who had sold it. That person would have a connection to the murder. When they went to the shop, they were stunned. The children's mother was already there, trying to sell other artifacts. "Why do you need to withdraw so much money and sell these artifacts?" Morgan asked her. The mother, in tears, finally told the truth. "I got a call from the kidnapper. He demanded money and threatened to kill my children if I told the police." That's why she had been silent. Morgan quickly called Detective Carrick, and they both promised the mother that they would not try to catch the kidnapper and would go with her to deliver the money. They went to the designated spot. The mother gave the kidnapper the bag of money, and the man ran off without leaving the children. Panic broke out, but Detective Carrick calmed everyone down. "Relax," he said. "I put a tracker in the bag. We'll find him." They traced the tracker to a car, but there were no children and no money inside. Morgan, looking around, turned on the car's radio. A very specific show was playing. Morgan instantly remembered that the family's driver had been listening to that exact same show at the house that day. She also remembered that the driver had parked his car in a very specific place from which his side view mirror offered a clear view of the mother. From these details, Morgan concluded that the driver was infatuated with the mother. Since he had no money, he had staged this whole drama. He murdered the father to remove the competition, then kidnapped the children to get the money, hoping to quit his job and marry the woman. It is possible that this man has committed the murder and he has kidnapped those two girls and hidden them, Morgan stated confidently. It turned out the driver hadn't committed the murder, but he definitely had kidnapped the daughters. However, as soon as he drove the car up to the mountains, the two clever girls managed to run away from him. Even he didn't know where they were now. Everyone realized the girls were in serious danger. The entire team rushed to the mountain location the driver described. Once they got there, Morgan started seeing things the others missed. The girls' dad was an environmentalist, and he had taught them to be clever. They had left little signs, clues to help people find them. Using these clues, they were able to find the two girls quickly. They rescued them and returned them safely to their family. Morgan had solved another incredibly complicated case. The next day, Morgan kept her promise to her daughter and brought her to the police station to show her around. Her daughter went to the washroom, and just then, a strange woman walked into the station. This woman was clearly very smart and very dangerous. She quickly snatched a gun from an officer and took everyone hostage. The shocker. She announced that she and her partner had already planted bombs all over the police station. As her partner started collecting all the officers' phones, the man approached Morgan. Before he could take her phone, Morgan managed to send a quick, frantic alert message to her daughter. Run away from the building. But her daughter, hearing the sounds of gunfire, didn't run. She came back, trying to help her mom. The woman who was holding everyone hostage finally explained her reason. She said that one of their colleagues, Logan, had been arrested for a murder he didn't commit. They had tried everything, even the courts, to save him, but nothing worked. "I just want to get justice for my friend," the woman said, "and that's why I'm here. Now, all of you detectives will collect the evidence that will prove my friend's innocence." They identified the two people who had taken over the station. They were both military officers. The woman called the lieutenant on an officer's phone and gave him a terrifying demand. "Find the evidence as soon as possible, or everyone here will be killed." Following her instructions, the lieutenant and Carrick immediately reopened Logan's case and started investigating. What had happened was that Logan's senior officer had been found dead in his van, and all the evidence pointed to Logan because he'd had a fight with his senior just before the murder. So far, nothing had been found to prove Logan's innocence. Inside the station, the captive detectives were also looking into the old case files. To them, Logan still looked like the culprit. But then Morgan looked at the crime scene photos again. With her genius eye for detail, she noticed a proper corner in the bloodstains. This meant there had been a piece of paper, right there, and someone had picked it up. Whoever took that paper might be the killer. Morgan quickly called the lieutenant and Detective Carrick, who were at the military van. "Did you find any paper there?" The detective said no, but they did find the major's laptop. Morgan told him to check the last file the major was working on. They found it. The major was writing a report to punish a soldier. When that didn't lead to much, they called the major's daughter in. The daughter told them that the night before the murder, her dad had canceled dinner for the first time in years, and he was killed the very next day. Morgan knew she had to find out where the major went that night. She checked his phone's last location from the evidence box. It showed the major had last visited a place where drug deals happened. Morgan put it together. The soldier the major was writing a report about must be a drug addict. She immediately asked the military to check which soldier had been discharged because of a drug case. The investigation was taking too long, and the man inside the station was starting to panic. His partner, the woman, tried to calm him down, saying, "We don't trust the police, but right now, we need their help." As they were talking, one of the officers, realizing they were cracking, tried to jump them and snatch the gun. But sadly, the poor officer ended up getting shot in the leg. Everyone panicked. Morgan, with surprising boldness, demanded an ambulance. When they hesitated, Morgan tried a different approach. She told the man that the girl holding them hostage was actually pregnant and was in a relationship with the very man they were trying to save. The woman quickly said, "I didn't betray you. I just didn't tell you I was pregnant. Logan is our friend, and we have to get him released." Seeing them emotionally vulnerable, Morgan pushed again for medical help for the injured officer. Finally, they agreed. The injured officer, along with Morgan's daughter, was sent away in the ambulance. Back to the case. They eventually got a blurry CCTV footage showing a man the major had met last, but they couldn't identify him. Morgan, still inside, kept reading the old investigations. She found out the major had bought a tracking device just before his death. He was clearly trying to track someone. She checked the major's phone again. The tracker showed that the person being tracked had last gone to the same drug dealership location. Morgan gave the police a shocking revelation. The person who killed the major doesn't know the major put a tracking device on him. She deduced that the person the major was tracking must be the killer, since both the major's last location and the tracker's location were the same drug spot. Plus, the tracking device showed that the same man had been inside the major's van at night. Using the tracking device, they quickly found the killer's location. Detective Carrick rushed out and arrested him. The case was practically solved. But inside the station, the captor man panicked, knowing the case was over and they would be arrested. He quickly knocked his partner unconscious and threatened everyone that he would blow them up with the bomb. Morgan, always thinking, stayed calm. "I know there is no bomb here. When you two came in, no dog barked. They are extremely sensitive to any such device." At that moment, the girl regained consciousness. She confirmed, with a sigh of relief for everyone, that the bomb threat was a lie and it was her idea. They quickly arrested the captors, and all the officers were freed. Morgan immediately hugged her daughter. Everyone celebrated their safety, and Logan was released, completely innocent. Days passed, and the lieutenant called Morgan to her office to give her an update on her missing husband. There was a breakthrough. They found out about a man her husband had met many times before he disappeared, Geo Cornforth. Morgan didn't recognize the name, so the lieutenant set up a meeting. They met Cornforth and asked him about his relationship with her husband. The man denied knowing him at all. Morgan got emotional. "If you help me find my husband, I will do anything in return," she pleaded. Cornforth saw his chance. "Okay," he said. "My nephew is in jail right now. Get him released, and I will help you." Back at the office, the lieutenant called Detective Carrick, deciding to hand over Morgan's husband's case to him. She also asked Carrick to help get Cornforth's nephew out of jail. The scene cuts, and Morgan is on her way home with groceries when she runs into Cornforth again. He was waiting for her. "I have a lot of information about your husband," he told Morgan. "I'll only tell you when you release my nephew." And then he walked away, leaving Morgan hanging. Morgan returned to her detective life, solving more murders. One day, the lieutenant announced a party for all the detectives. Everyone was excited, but before they could start planning, Detective Carrick received an email. It showed a kidnapped man holding a sign that read, "You have only 2 hours to make your next move." They quickly identified the man, rushed to his house, and found a parcel outside. Back at the station, Morgan quickly put together the contents of the package, a jigsaw puzzle of a map. One piece was missing, and that missing piece was the location where the man was being held. They raced to the mountain location. As they went into the forest, they found cards, a trail of puzzles with clues to reach the man. Morgan and the team solved every puzzle and soon found the man. He was rescued. Once the man was well enough, they questioned him. He said he didn't know the reason or the kidnapper's face. He was attacked on the way home, and the kidnapper, who always wore a mask, would force him to play games. Morgan realized that the kidnapper was clearly obsessed with children's games based on all the puzzle clues. That night, Cornforth called Morgan again. He told her that before her husband disappeared, he was worried about their family's security and was working with a girl named Leaf Flynn. Morgan didn't remember the name. The psycho kidnapper had sent a baby box with 3 dolls and more clues to the police station. Everyone was confused, but one officer said, "I know the kidnapper. He's a member of a therapy group for people whose loved ones left them." The lieutenant sent that officer to the therapy session and assigned Morgan to find out why the kidnapper sent the dolls. At the therapy session, the kidnapper was absent. Other members told the officer that the man was strange. His sister had left him, and his biggest complaint was that she wouldn't play games with him anymore. The officer got the kidnapper's address. When they turned off the lights, a strange message was written on the wall with sparkling light. "You can never talk in the dark." Morgan instantly understood. Only deaf people cannot talk in the dark because they use sign language. The kidnapper must work with deaf people and was giving clues in sign language. Back at the office, they looked at the dolls. The hands of the dolls were arranged in sign language. When they looked up what the signs meant, they found another message and a location. They rushed to the location and found another hostage, a woman who was a member of the same therapy group. She was locked inside a safe. The lieutenant realized the kidnapper was targeting people like himself from the therapy group. She ordered security for all group members and reminded everyone about the party that night. Everyone went home to get ready. Morgan got a message from Cornforth with a time and location. If she wanted more information about her husband, she had to meet him there. Meanwhile, Detective Carrick met an FBI friend to ask about the girl Cornforth mentioned, Leaf Flynn. He told Carrick that Leaf Flynn was an undercover FBI agent who was killed 15 years ago. He gave Carrick her complete file. The scene cuts to the officer who was a member of the therapy group. As he got into his car, his airbag burst, and a masked man appeared in front of him. The kidnapper had struck again, this time kidnapping one of their own. Everyone at the party was having fun, but they started missing the officer. They couldn't reach him, so the lieutenant sent another officer to check his house. While dancing, Detective Carrick asked Morgan's permission to formally take over her husband's case. She gave him everything, including Cornforth's number, so he could investigate. Before they could finish talking, they got an emergency call from the officer who went to check on the missing detective. The officer's car airbag had burst, and he was gone. A clue in the car confirmed it was the psycho kidnapper. They abandoned the party and started solving the new puzzle. Morgan quickly figured out the puzzle was about a large mansion with a swimming pool inside. They rushed there and found the officer tied up inside the pool, barely surviving with an oxygen mask. Morgan and Detective Carrick went in and quickly saved his life. The next morning, Detective Carrick, now fully on the case, met with Cornforth and put intense pressure on him. He finally managed to get some information. Meanwhile, Morgan was at the grocery store with her family. A young boy helped them with their groceries. When they got home, they found a strange box in their luggage with a sticker on the back that read, "You are the Morgan." It was very weird. Back at the station, the rescued officer had finished a sketch of his kidnapper. As soon as it was sent to Morgan, she instantly recognized the face. It was the same boy who helped her at the grocery store and who had slipped the package into her shopping. Before she could react, Morgan received another call with a final, shocking piece of information. Her husband is still alive. Where is he, and what is he doing? The season ends here, leaving us with this huge mystery.